Hi, I'm George Page, and this is Bruce, a border collie in charge of his flock of sheep. His sheep are St. Croix, a breed known for its tameness and successful breeding rate. To herd them, a border collie like Bruce is considered the best in the business. We'd expect the dog and the sheep to be enemies, predator and prey. But during thousands of years of selective breeding, man has changed the fundamental relationship between them. The prey is now tamed. The predator stands guard, and the two have been constant companions ever since. A wolf on the prowl. Its prey, mouflon. Sheepdog, descendant of the wolf. And sheep, descendant of the mouflon. With a whistle, the shepherd commands the sheepdog to hold back its natural instinct to attack. Some 12,000 years ago, we domesticated the wild wolf. We bred it and taught it to control its prey, sheep. Today, sheep serve us well. They provide wool, meat, and milk. To do this, we had to transform them, shape them, mold them into 120 different breeds to suit a variety of climates around the world, all for our benefit. Today, sheep appear to be a natural part of our landscape. But this scene was created by man. The story goes back to the dawn of civilization, when nomadic peoples settled into farming and changed the world forever. This figure represents one of the earliest domesticated sheep. It was made in Mesopotamia almost 5,000 years ago. Its long fleece shows that it was bred for wool, not just milk and meat. Illustrated on this ancient Sumerian standard are the provisions for a feast. In the center, 2 sheep and a goat. Cattle by then had also been domesticated. Behind this bull is a smooth-coated sheep, which was most likely plucked rather than sheared. It was around this time that sheep were first brought to Great Britain. Here, on the island of St. Kilda, off northwest Scotland, are sheep that haven't changed since that time. Soays, the most primitive domestic breed alive today. Similar to wild sheep, Soays shed their wool when they molt and were probably plucked. Like their ancestors, they scatter when rounded up instead of flocking together. Autumn is the beginning of their mating season, just as it is for wild sheep. Today, soways are no longer farmed commercially. Other species are far more profitable. But here on the Orkney Islands off Scotland is a unique breed which represents the next stage in domestication. They live on the shoreline, and instead of eating grass, they browse on seaweed. This strange diet points to their ancestry, for wild sheep are desert animals and can tolerate a high salt intake. There is good grazing on the islands, but it's now reserved for cattle. Sheep crop grass at the very base of its stalk and ruin grazing for other livestock. The 6-foot wall around the fields is not so much to keep the cattle in, but to keep the sheep out. But by eating seaweed, the sheep have turned the tidal zone into a productive pasture of their own. There is enough kelp to maintain a flock of about 2,000 sheep, which are valued for their rich dark meat as well as their wool. Come summer, the Orkneys calmly share their pasture with seals coming ashore to have their pups. Like a true primitive breed, these Orkney sheep cannot be herded into a flock. So when the shepherd needs to catch one, he unleashes the natural instincts of his dog as a hunter. But training has modified those instincts, and the dog grabs the sheep by its wool instead of by its neck.
Don't know.
Only the pregnant ewes are allowed to graze on grass, which they need to produce rich milk for their lambs. Confinement inside the wall also prevents vulnerable lambs from being swept out to sea. So any lambs that were born on the beach are caught as well.
Catch up. Catch up, boy. Catch up, David. Catch up, boy.
They're captured with the skill of sheepdogs, a talent for the chase, developed long ago when it meant survival, a skill perfected by the sheepdog's direct ancestor, the wolf. Gray wolves are the masters of the herding technique. The pack employs complex teamwork. With clever strategy, a few wolves approach the caribou until at the right moment, the roundup begins. Finally, the herd is turned toward the waiting pack. Division of labor and cooperation characterize wolf society. But the wolf is only one member of a whole family of wild dogs found throughout the world. In South America, the maned wolf, solitary and shy, hunts rodents in the tall grasses of the Argentine pampas. The bush dog is also South American. Its long back and short legs resemble a dachshund's, enabling it to hunt in the dense undergrowth of tropical forests. The North American coyote has taken advantage of the wolf's decline. Once found only on the Great Plains, they now thrive from Alaska to central Mexico. The simian jackal of eastern Africa looks a great deal like the coyote, but is extremely rare and is now considered endangered. This beautiful golden red canine leads a highly social den life, but when hunting, it sets out alone. In contrast, African wild dogs are highly successful group hunters and, like the wolf, are closely bonded with their pack mates. Pack life is remarkably unaggressive and cooperative. But it was the wolf that we domesticated, the wolf that came into the campfires and took the human social order as its own. Our competitors became our partners, contributing to and sharing in human success. Prehistoric petroglyphs clearly reveal domesticated canines participating in a hunt for big game. In northern Africa, early man rose to high civilization with the dog at his side. By 2000 BC, the ancient Egyptians had already bred the dog into diverse forms. Today, the domestic dog is the most varied animal species in existence. There are at least 142 breeds, representing every possible shape, size, and color. From 6 inches to 3.5 feet in height. From 2 pounds to more than 100 pounds. And despite their vast differences in appearance, they all behave remarkably the same, a vivid reminder of their common ancestor. But why was it only the wolf? Why not other social canines, like the African wild dogs, man's co-hunters on the African savannas since the dawn of the human race? After all, the wild dog shares his kill with all pack members, and even seems to hunt wildebeest in the same way the wolf hunts caribou. But on close examination, the hunting styles of wolves and wild dogs are significantly different. With sophisticated stealth, wolves encircle their prey, using surprise and ambush instead of merely running at the herd. Constant communication among pack members reinforces the chain of command, the authority of the pack's hierarchy. The restraint, cooperation, and herding ability of the wolves is even stronger in the sheepdog. As they set off to encircle their flock, it is simple for the shepherd, now pack leader, to control the hunt and suppress the final act, the kill. African wild dogs, however, show no such restraint and obey no single leader. Without this regard for authority, no command could call them back from the chase. But sheepdogs are willing to listen, and to watch them work with their trainer is a riveting spectacle. In fact, in England, television coverage of competitive dog trials is extremely popular.
On 4, have you got the shepherd? Close up, yes.
Away goes Queen to the right.
2, on 2, that's nice. Coming to 3, on 3.
Viewers watch the amazing skills of the shepherd and his dog moving sheep into precisely the desired position. By selective breeding and good training, the shepherd has enhanced the natural instincts of the wolf deep inside the dog and used it to his advantage. How is this spectacular harmony between man and dog achieved? The teamwork is based on communication, respect, and love. Like wolves, dogs communicate vocally. Whistles and words of command instruct the dog which way to move.
Long one to stop. Left hand command. Whistle to follow on.
Though this relationship is based on the hierarchy of a wolf pack, with the shepherd as top dog, their bond has another important ingredient.
A border collie is a true friend. A true friend will never let you down.
Here in the Highlands of Scotland, the border collie has truly proved its worth. In these vast open spaces, the sheepdog is a necessity. In the early morning, 6 men and 14 dogs set off to round up a flock in an area covering 100 square miles. The Scottish Highlands are beautiful, but harsh. They're swept by cold winds, rain, and snow. The Scotch black-faced sheep are bred to live in such conditions. They are upland representatives of more modern sheep, one more step in domestication. This intelligent breed knows its territory. They move to sheltered areas in bad weather and know how to find water and the best grazing. Each flock has spent generations learning its territory. So when a hill farm is sold, the flock must be sold with it. Hill breeds live close to the wild and have a strong instinct for survival, an instinct which, like the dogs, the shepherd uses to advantage. April. The lambing season begins in the Highlands. Like her ancestors, the ewe eats the afterbirth. She has sought this isolation to prevent her lamb from getting lost in the flock. The lamb is licked and dried to prevent it from getting cold. Hypothermia is the #1 lamb killer. The lamb must get to its feet quickly so it can run with its mother. The bonding process begins at once. The mother learns the smell of her lamb so she can recognize it when they both return to the flock. The lamb learned its mother's voice when it was in the womb. Now the ewe must recognize her lamb's call before they rejoin the flock and the safety of its numbers. Once it's standing firmly, instinct makes it look for milk. When trouble occurs, the shepherd must come to the rescue. This lamb is stuck because its right foreleg is twisted back. But with a helping hand, it's saved. With both mother and lamb exhausted, the shepherd must help form their bond. He rubs her nose into the wet lamb to encourage her to lick it. He also knows that the lamb must nurse as soon as possible to ensure it gets the vital first milk, colostrum, essential for its survival. Colostrum must be taken within 30 minutes, as it contains live antibodies specific to diseases in the flock. A good shepherd knows his sheep and saves lives by understanding their natural behavior. But these hills have their casualties. A lamb has died. The shepherd will use the loss of this lamb to save another. The dead lamb skin can dress up an orphan to make it look and smell like the ewe's own lamb. The skin still carries the strong scent that's imprinted on the ewe's mind. The shepherd knows she won't accept a strange lamb, so the skin is vital in tempting her to foster the orphan. The ewe is brought into the shed, where fostering takes place in isolation. This orphan lamb was rejected by its mother, which gave birth to twins. In the uplands, most ewes can only mother one lamb at a time. Now the orphan smells of the dead lamb. With luck, the mother will be fooled into accepting a total stranger. Her maternal instincts are still strong. She probably suspects something is wrong, but the urge to mother will help to build a new relationship. In 3 days' time, when she smells her own milk passing through her new lamb, she'll treat him as her own, and the skin can come off. Intensive farming in the Scottish lowlands is a far cry from the wildness of the Highlands. After lambing, each mother has her own private cubicle. Expectant mothers wait in the comfort of a public maternity ward. They're given the very best treatment. Shepherds are on duty 24 hours a day. Here, each ewe is selectively bred to have twins. This one is giving birth to the first of her twins. The natural instinct to isolate themselves has been denied, so the other expectant mothers are thrown into confusion as to whether it's their lamb or not. The survival strategy that urges lambs to stand up quickly kicks into action. Even here, the natural maternal instincts have been preserved. But just when the bonding process begins, the other twin is about to be born. The ewes have been mated with the larger Suffolk ram to produce big prime lambs for the table market. But large lambs and multiple births can cause problems for the mother. Although bred to have twins, her drive to look after her firstborn is too strong. And so the second lamb will have to wait. The flock is checked every hour. Humans have created the extra burdens on these sheep, so it's their duty to help them. Help for the second twin comes quickly. The lambs are isolated just as they would be in the wild. Tempted to stay with her twins, the mother is lured into a private pen.
Come on then.
There's full medical backup. Diseases can build up in artificially overcrowded accommodations, and the lambs must be inoculated to prevent various infections. For these animals, mankind has changed the rules of survival, and in transforming them, he has transformed his own role in the scheme of things. Triplets are a problem. Ewes have only 2 teats and cannot nurse a third lamb, so one becomes an orphan. A ewe with only a single lamb is now forced to adopt the orphan, but this time there is no dead lamb to skin. The mother is lured into a yoke to be held there for the next 3 days.
Come on then. There's a good girl.
She quickly accepts the situation and settles down.
There you are, little lamb. There's your mummy.
The strongest of the triplets is taken away and brought to its new mother. If the ewe wasn't held, she would drive the lamb away or possibly kill it. A good supply of food and water distracts her from the suckling lamb. She's able to get up and lie down to rest quite happily.
Come on.
3 days later, she's freed.
Go now. You're not there then.
Her milk has passed through the adopted lamb, and its odor signals that this is her new lamb. The timing of mating coincides with the shortening days and the coming of winter, so the lambs will be born in spring, when there's an abundance of grass. Just as in the wild, the rams and ewes come together after spending the year in separate groups. But for the commercial ram, life's made a little easier. In the wild, there would be an equal number of males to females, and a ram would have to fight for dominance to serve the maximum number of ewes. But here, there's only one ram to every 50 ewes. The female comes into heat every 17 days, and her sexual scent signals when she's ready for mating. A colored marker is strapped onto the chest of each ram. It paints the ewe's back when he mounts her. A different color put on every 17 days helps the shepherd to know more precisely when the ewe will lamb. Crowning the white cliffs of the Dover Strait, the South Downs present one of England's most beautiful and famous landscapes. Yet this spectacular scene is not a natural one. It was created by sheep. Intensive grazing by domestic sheep over the centuries has changed the balance among plant species. Cropping the grass close to the ground allows other plants to flourish, such as the round-headed rampion, the common rock rose, and orchids like the pyramidal orchid, the common spotted orchid, and fly orchid, providing food for rare butterflies, such as the Chalk-Hill blue. By the 12th century, wool had become a mainstay of the British economy. As the world demand increased, wool led to wealth. It fired the start of the Industrial Revolution and became part of mass production lines. The value of sheep was growing. Up to the end of the 19th century, sheep were driven to market on the hoof, along the old drove roads that crisscrossed Britain. On the South Downs, dew ponds were resting places for thirsty and exhausted sheep. The shepherd used droving dogs like the Old English sheepdog to drive his sheep. These large dogs with strong legs could plod on for 30 miles a day. As droving was replaced by modern transportation, this breed changed from a working dog to a show dog and pet. These were the great highways of Britain, 30 feet wide, to allow the heavy traffic of sheep on the hoof. Sheep, without question, had a great impact on the landscape. But the growth of sheep farming also had an impact on human settlements. The value of sheep was as great in Scotland as elsewhere in Britain, and soon more and more land was being used for sheep farming. In 1814 came the terrible Highland clearances. This was once a village, but all its people were evicted and its 20 houses set ablaze. The landlord could make more money from sheep than cattle and crops combined. A hardy breed of wool-bearing sheep was brought here from England to live through the cold, bleak winter. Today, sheep still dwell where people once lived. The village of Glencalvy was also destroyed. 18 families, some 90 people, were evicted. They made their way to the nearby church of Croik, where they took refuge in the churchyard. The people didn't enter the church itself because they considered themselves cursed, but instead scratched their story on the windows. Glencalvy people, the wicked generation, May 24, 1845. The Glencalvy tenants resided here. At no other time in Western history had people been forced from their land and replaced by animals. Sheep became a dirty word. At this time, immigration to new worlds began, and many people found new lives in America, Australia, and New Zealand. New Zealand offered large tracts of grassland, just right for sheep farming, and it was taken up on a scale far greater than ever before. New Zealand's whole economy was built on sheep. It became a world supplier, ironically sending wool back to Britain. Today, New Zealand, with a human population of only 4 million, has more than 50 million sheep. But the success of sheep farming here would not have been possible without the sheepdog. Two types of dogs were developed to work sheep in New Zealand, each with a different task. The heading dog is similar to the border collie and is used in the same way. Intelligent and nimble, with acute concentration and a keen eye, they are very good at gathering sheep into a flock. The other dog is the huntaway, a bigger dog with large feet, the right equipment to drive sheep long distances over the hills. It barks on command, and when told, goes left or right. These dogs have been specially bred to obey instructions over long distances. The dog appears slow in reacting to each command, but it takes time for the sound of the whistle to travel, especially if it's a mile away. This young heading pup has never seen sheep before. Today, it's about to be introduced to them for the first time. At first, he doesn't spot the sheep and is more interested in the older dog. But that changes instantly. The pup's instinct to herd and chase sheep suddenly emerges. With good training, he'll become a champion.
Steady. Come on, steady. Come on.
The relationship between dog and sheep is a delicate one, and sometimes it breaks down. Every year, sheep are attacked and killed by pet dogs running wild.
There was one of the farmers, not very far away at Rumney, who had 50 sheep killed in one night, 50, a total flock wiped out. But 3 dogs are the average run. Get 3 dogs together and something comes over them, a kind of a hysteria.
It's usually a terrier and usually a larger dog, either a collie or an Alsatian, that make up the pair. And the little dog usually goes for the front of the ewe, and the big dog usually goes at the back of the ewe. The owners don't seem to realize that at home their pets are soft and kind and gentle, but once they get out in a country environment where the wind's blowing and out in the open fields, nature itself makes them quite different.
You can look at your own little dog in the house and think what a wonderful dog he is, but I can assure you he's a killer when he gets in the company of other dogs.
In Italy, humans have pushed this predator-prey relationship even further. The white Maremma has been bred to blend in with the sheep, a dog in sheep's clothing. These dogs follow and stick to the flock. Their job, to guard against predators such as wolves and especially stray dogs. Barking is enough to put off the threat. This is a hybrid, half wolf, half dog. We have tapped the natural instinct of the dog to guard its pack against intruders. And we've gone another step by making a predator and its prey live together in unusual harmony. In the United States, sheep ranchers traditionally had problems with wolves, coyotes, stray dogs, and even bears. The answer, it seemed, was to poison or shoot the killers. But we have learned that killing predators has serious consequences for the ecosystem. And since the 1970s, farmers have been using guard dogs imported from Europe. Training guard dogs is a complex process. Young pups, 6 to 12 weeks old, are penned with sheep, which act as their mothers. This is the age when social bonds are developed in dogs. The pup grows up with a stronger affiliation to sheep than people or other dogs. But why do they guard them? Ray Coppinger is a biology professor at Hampshire College in Massachusetts and the leader in establishing guard dogs in the U.S. He has imported several different breeds from all over Europe to find the best one for the American sheep rancher.
Of course, this old girl, she's raised a lot of puppies. She'll take care of them.
He believes the best guard dogs are those that retain their juvenile character. Young dogs have little instinct to hunt or attack sheep, but instead to guard them. It's also just as important for lambs to accept dogs as part of their flock. So from the moment they're born, lambs and young pups grow up together, accepting each other for a lifelong companionship. Ray Coppinger's dogs are shipped all over the United States, and the results are very encouraging, up to 70% reduction in killings. His program is making sheep management better. The guard dog has become the rancher's best friend.
This other dog's working pretty good, huh?
Well, you know, we've seen coyotes between the barn and the house, and the fact is I haven't seen him since she came. She likes the sheep. You know, she hangs around and she watches everything. Sometimes she'll sit up on the hill and just watch.
Yeah.
But anything come into the area, she's off like a shot.
As the shepherd takes on new technologies, the sheepdog faithfully joins him. Science has not only revolutionized sheep management, but sheep themselves. The Merino is the breed of Australia. Originally from Spain, it's bred purely for its wool. The Australian wool market is enormous, supplying most of the world. This ram has just been sold for $66,000. It's highly priced because of its quality wool and the weight of its fleece. But its real value will be to fertilize as many ewes as possible. Unfortunately for the ram, he'll never get close to any of them.
That's quite a highly concentrated sample.
By artificial insemination, the contents of this one vial can serve more than 50 ewes.
Up there to AI 50-odd ewes.
Sperm can be frozen and stored for years, then transported anywhere. Eggs can also be treated in the same way. Selective breeding is becoming an exact science, all working to produce the ultimate breed. But pushing animal productivity further and further can lead to disaster. These are the great grasslands of Australia. The Merino is well adapted to such harsh conditions, but the land did not evolve with these hungry herds. The soil and vegetation are in delicate balance with the sparse, erratic rains. And when the rain stops, the land runs dry. Sheep must drink from man-made wells. So must the shepherd and his horse. The vegetation dies. When Europeans brought sheep to their new land, they brought intensive farming practices as well. The consequence is death to this frail land and ultimately to the stock. In Europe, however, traditional methods of sheep herding have successfully supplied not only meat and wool, but also milk. Milk was probably one of the first products of domestication, and sheep were milked thousands of years before cattle were. In fact, sheep's milk causes fewer allergies than cow's milk. Recently, sheep's milk has been coming back into fashion. In Britain, the demand is so great that on some farms it's being produced on a grand scale. Brought in by conveyor belt into clean, sterile conditions, 800 ewes are milked in a single hour. But when the farm becomes a factory,
we are in danger of perceiving these animals as mere tools of the trade, commodities on the assembly line. Yet technology does offer conveniences for the shepherd and the sheep. Shearing can be quite a tender experience. But here in Australia, one sheep is getting special treatment in wool removal without the worry of cutting blades. Her wool net is about to reveal her secret. Shearing is very labor-intensive. It hurts the farmer's pocket as well as the sheep's skin. But by giving this sheep an injection of EGF, epidermal growth factor, the fleece can just drop off at the required time. EGF makes the wool brittle at the root base, so the fiber can break easily. Then, leaving it to grow back for a couple of weeks ensures there's enough protection for the skin from sun and cold. But how far can we go in changing the very nature of sheep? Back in Scotland, man is finding new uses for them. These spring lambs are part of a medical experiment. Within their cells, there's a human gene. These lambs are transgenic. They've undergone genetic engineering. Some are carrying the gene that will produce factor IX in their milk. It's an important blood clotting agent in humans that's missing in hemophiliacs. It has not yet been perfected, but it could mean that sheep could have a new role on the farm as living laboratories producing life-saving drugs. Man has manipulated, molded, and changed the sheep from an astute wild animal into the docile creature it is today. He has transformed a savvy carnivore into a quick and able partner. During our many modifications to domestic animals, we may not have noticed that we too have been transformed into guardian, nurse, midwife, and provider. Sheep, dog, and man are bound by a complex web of interdependence, of loyalty, responsibility, and trust.
Nature is made possible by the financial support of viewers like you, your gas company, and the gas industry, meeting America's needs by providing abundant supplies of clean natural gas for this generation and for generations to come. And by Siemens Engineering Solutions in electronic components and medical systems, telecommunications, energy, and automation. Siemens.
Come along as Dan, Nancy, Tom, Ron, Larry, and Linda explore outdoor Wisconsin. Next at 9 on Channel 10.
On the Wing, The Life of Birds from Feathers to Flight by Bruce Brooks, a companion book to the Nature series, is available in bookstores everywhere.